Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After looking at this man with contempt, Uchiha hesitated for a moment and then spoke. Everyone, let's forget about this matter. Hearing this, Uchiha Setsuna glared at him and said. Forget it? How can we forget about it? Uchiha Tsuryu has Uchiha blood, and we can't let him leave like this. Although Uchiha didn't want Uchiha Tsuryu to leave, this matter was almost settled. Besides, although opening the Sharingan at the age of 6 is a bit of a monster, it doesn't guarantee that he will definitely open the Mangekyo in the future, but Uzumaki Mito's adoption of him will definitely improve the current situation of Uchiha, of course. Uchiha didn't know that Uchiha Tsuryu had already opened the Mangekyo, otherwise he would regret it. Moreover, Uchiha Setsuna also contributed to Uchiha Tsuryu's adoption. Thinking of this, Uchiha continued. You may not know the current situation of this child. Let me be frank. Elder Setsuna also contributed to the adoption of this child. Uchiha Setsuna was stunned by this. He had never seen Uchiha Tsuryu before, so how could he contribute? But before he could ask, Uchiha explained the reason. Do you remember Uchiha Setsuna's proposal some time ago? Let some orphans in the clan go to ninja school. One of those orphans was Uchiha Tsuryu, and Tsunade, the descendant of Senju, also entered the ninja school at the same time. I think it was at that time that they had an intersection, and finally Uchiha Tsuryu was chosen by Uzumaki Mito and adopted. So, there is no room for maneuver in this matter. All those present were Uchiha people of status, and they understood the meaning of Uchiha Eng's words that there was no room for maneuver. Uchiha Tsuryu was the one who was abandoned. Since he was abandoned, his attitude towards the family can be imagined. On the contrary, Uzumaki Mito was the one who helped in times of need. With these two completely different treatments, normal people would know who to choose. Uchiha Setsuna was blocked from saying what he wanted to say. It was not right to say it or not to say it. It was indeed he who proposed to let the orphans in the clan go to the ninja school, and he also understood the meaning, but there was no way. This was to compromise with the doves in the clan and to arrange their own people in the clan school in exchange. It is said that the doves let their children go to the ninja school, and they were not ashamed to show their favor to the Hokage. In fact, whether it is the dove Uchiha or the hawk Uchiha, their purpose is to make the clan develop better. It's just that the purpose is the same, but the paths to achieve the purpose are different. The doves are friendly and advocate making friends with people in Konoha, which is recognized by most people in Konoha. Finally, under this trend, a Hokage belonging to Uchiha will naturally appear. The Hawks are very radical and advocate the use of a coup to remove the top leaders of Konoha and then elect an Uchiha Hokage. But it is precisely because they are too radical that the radicals have been suppressed in this era when there is not such a big conflict between Uchiha and Konoha. So many demands have to be discussed with the doves, so Uchiha Setsuna, who wants to achieve his goal, put forward such a suggestion that is beneficial to the doves, but who would have thought that there would be such a monster among those orphans? This made him feel very uncomfortable, with a kind of bitterness of shooting himself in the foot and not being able to say the bitterness. It's just a child anyway, there will be plenty of time and opportunities to bring him back in the future. Uchiha Setsuna couldn't afford to lose face in the end. As an Uchiha, he was very proud, not to mention that he was the great elder, so Uchiha Setsuna coughed, and after everyone around looked here, he gave a plan. Since things have developed to this point, why not take it slow? Uchiha Tsuryu is still Uchiha no matter what. Even if it is Uzumaki Mito, the secret of the Sharingan is not something she can understand. Send someone to tell Uchiha Tsuryu that if you want the secret technique of the Sharingan, just go back to Uchiha. Such a compromise plan also made everyone present nod in agreement. It is too late to remedy the situation now. Moreover, as Uchiha, they believe that they know Uchiha best, and the power of the Sharingan will make Uchiha Tsuryu change his mind. Unfortunately, they all guessed wrong. Uchiha Tsuyu's Mangekyo has been turned on, and the system's plug-in is unreasonable. Presumably, when Uchiha Tsuryu returns to Uchiha again, that will be the day when he becomes the boss of Uchiha, since the main purpose of the meeting can no longer be achieved, and a compromise choice has been made. The two groups of people who dislike each other naturally stand left immediately. This meeting of the Uchiha clan ended in a whimper. but the storm had just begun. But no matter what, the name Uchiha Xingliu has spread among the Uchiha high-level officials, and it won't be long before this name will spread to every corner of Konoha. Uchiha had just returned to his residence, and before he sat down to rest, Uchiha Xien knocked on his door. "Come in." Hearing Uchiha Eng's words, Uchiha Xien pushed open the door, walked to him respectfully and said, "Father, did this meeting go well?" Uchiha nodded with satisfaction, satisfied with his son's etiquette. Although he was a dove, Uchiha paid special attention to etiquette, even to the point of being strict. At home, even his own son is no exception. "The meeting didn't go very smoothly. The child you told me about is the purpose of this meeting. Your feeling is correct. This child not only opened the Sharingan, but also has 3 Magatama. Unfortunately, he has been adopted by Mito." Uchiha shook his head and felt sorry for the loss of the genius in the clan. Uchiha Xien was a little surprised. Although he had guessed that Uchiha Xingliu had opened the Sharingan, he didn't expect it to be 3 Magatama, but it's meaningless to say these now. The person has been adopted, and the adopter is still someone that Uchiha can't afford to offend. Having said that, such a genius just passed away. Is it true that the clan didn't do anything? So, Uchiha Xien asked. Then is there no remedial measure? Uchiha chuckled and said. You know Uchiha Setsuna. He was the one who proposed to let the orphans enter the ninja school. It is easier to kill him than to make him lose face and apologize to Uchiha Xingliu. Uchiha Xien nodded in agreement after hearing this, and then the father and son smiled at each other. The 2 people who were talking did not notice that a small figure stood outside their door. Chapter 22. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha. Star Stream. Standing outside the door, Uchiha Jiji muttered to himself as he listened to the genius mentioned by his grandfather and father. Then she looked at the door unwillingly, as if she saw through the door and saw the 2 people. The Magatama slowly appeared in Uchiha Jiji's eyes, and then disappeared. I don't know if it was because of insufficient chakra or because the emotional fluctuations did not meet the standard. This time, her Sharingan was not opened, but this also shows that Uchiha Jiji is an absolute genius. However, after Uchiha Jiji made such a fuss, the 2 people in the door also discovered her. As soon as Uchiha Xien opened the door, he saw Uchiha Jiji pouting and looking at him with red eyes. He knew without thinking that his little princess was jealous after hearing the conversation just now, and when Uchiha saw this scene, he also stood up and hugged Uchiha Jiji. What's wrong with my little baby? Who made you unhappy? Tell grandpa and see how I deal with him. Although Uchiha attaches great importance to interests, there is only one exception, that is his granddaughter Uchiha Jiji. Uchiha Jiji lost her mother when she was young. In order to make up for this love, the whole family regards her as a princess. It is no exaggeration to say that since childhood, Uchiha Jiji has everything she wants. Ordinary people who are raised like this would have been lawless long ago, but Uchiha Jiji maintained a good attitude, not arrogant or impatient, which is very reassuring. He is also very polite in dealing with people and behaves perfectly in front of outsiders. But the perfect Uchiha Jiji has a shortcoming, which is that he is more likely to be jealous and is a little jealous. Maybe this is related to the excessive care of Uchiha and Uchiha Xien. Excessive love makes Uchiha Jiji pay special attention to these 2 people. Uchiha Xili buried his head in Uchiha Eng's arms and said in a muffled voice. Is that Uchiha Xingliu really that powerful? Is he more powerful than me? Hearing this, Uchiha looked at Uchiha Xien and told him to find a solution quickly. Uchiha Xien smiled bitterly after receiving this look, and didn't know how to make up for it. Fortunately, Uchiha Xili's jealousy came and went quickly. She didn't wait for her grandfather and father to answer, and struggled to jump out of Uchiha Eng's arms. Unlike her tearful face just now, her face was full of ambition now. Uchiha Xingliu is stronger now, but I will definitely surpass him in the future. I'm going to practice. Call me when it's time to eat. After saying that, without waiting for the 2 to say anything, she ran away without a trace. The 2 people standing there were left with a look of relief. You are worthy of being my daughter, granddaughter. At the same time, Uzumaki Mito took Uchiha Ciu to register and formally adopted him. and the news that she adopted Uchiha would spread throughout Konoha in just a few days. Uzumaki Mito took Uchiha Seiu's hand and walked slowly on the way home. Uchiha Seiu hesitated to speak, not knowing why Mito didn't ask him anything. After walking for a long time, Uchiha Seiu had already seen the Senju clan's land, and did not wait for Uzumaki Mito to ask. He could no longer hold back and let go of his hand, looking at Uzumaki Mito, who had stopped, and asked, "Don't you have anything to ask me?" Uzumaki Mito turned around and looked at the boy in front of him, looking at his clear eyes, and slowly said, "Everyone has secrets that they don't want others to know. If you want to tell me, you will tell me naturally." She smiled slightly and raised her hand to flick Uchiha Seiu's forehead. Seeing Uchiha Tsuryu holding his forehead in pain, she laughed even more happily. After a while, Uzumaki Mito stopped laughing and continued. "Do you know Hashirama's most regrettable thing?" Uchiha Tsuryu heard this and recalled the life of Hashirama Senju in Naruto, witnessed the cruelty of the Warring States period, children under 10 years old fighting each other, and hell was everywhere. Met Uchiha Madara, came together because of the same ideas, and parted ways because of different ideals, founded Konoha to distribute the tailed beasts, wanting to balance the 5 major countries and let peace come to this broken continent. For a long time, Hashirama Senju had too many regrets. His brother could not grow up healthily and fell forever in the Warring States period. He wanted peace, but gave the weapon to others with his own hands. His best friend Uchiha Madara fell in his hands just because of different paths and ideals. For a while, Uchiha Tsuryu couldn't tell which one it was. Uzumaki Mito didn't wait for Uchiha Tsuryu to answer, and started telling the story. "Hashirama told me that the thing he regretted most in his life was that he didn't have brought my best friend back to the right path. I still remember that day, the day when Hashirama buried Uchiha with his own hands. That day, Hashirama came back and fell into my arms. He was covered in wounds, and the healing ability of the seal could not heal the wounds. That was the first time I saw him so sad. He cried and said to me, if Madara had been made Hokage from the beginning, we would not have come to this day. He also said something like Madara was right and I had gone against my original intention. Really, Hashirama never cared about me so much. I am a little angry when I think about it." Uzumaki Mito puffed up her lips in anger, but then fell silent. Uchiha Seiyu did not disturb Uzumaki Mito, knowing that she was thinking of sad things. Uzumaki Mito recovered after a while, touched Uchiha Seiyu's head and continued. After that, although Hashirama's physical injuries healed, his chakra was lifeless. This gave me a bad feeling. Although Hashirama looked the same as before, I already knew the result. Sure enough, Hashirama left before Tsuna grew up, leaving me, an old woman, all alone. After that, I understood a truth. When you trust someone, the person you trust also hopes that you can keep this original intention and always trust him. At this point, Uzumaki Mito looked into Uchiha Seiyu's clear eyes and said sincerely, "Child, can I trust you?" Uchiha Seiyu had never seen Uzumaki Mito's sincere feelings and words in his life. This sincere emotion undoubtedly touched him and deeply touched his heart. "Of course, you can always trust me. As long as Sister Mito trusts me, I will never deviate from my original intention." At this moment, Uchiha Seiyu had already recognized Uzumaki Mito in his heart. Although there were many inside stories in Uzumaki Mito's story that she didn't know, this unconditional trust in him was real and undoubted, and in response to this heart, of course, there was also an equal trust. Chapter 23. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the past, Uchiha Seiyu also set the goal of bringing peace to the continent, but in his heart, he was more of a playful person who arrived in another world. Just like playing a game, there must be a main task to support the action, and Uzumaki Mito shocked him and made him truly understand what the so-called Hokage represents. The establishment of Konoha is not only the credit of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama. The 1,000 years of chaos made everyone on this land yearn for peace. Once someone took the lead, the flame of peace would be spread to every corner, so the establishment of Konoha can be said to be the credit of everyone in the land of fire, and Uzumaki Mito is no exception. Although limited to his own vision and the limitations of the times for thousands of years, without the concept of a unified continent, true peace cannot be achieved, but compared with the chaotic Warring States period, The ninja village era is already a kind of progress, if Uchiha Xingliu looks at everything on this continent from a god's perspective. It would be too arrogant. The emergence of the ninja village can be regarded as the best system that people of that era could think of. Although the war between countries may be more cruel, it is a great improvement compared to the daily war situation in the Warring States period. With the establishment of order, every weak person is a beneficiary. The Hokage is not only the leader of the village, but also the umbrella for the weak, so if you want to become a Hokage, you must be recognized by the vast majority of people. Of course, you can also use absolute strength to overwhelm everyone, so that no one will object, and Uchiha Xingliu was an adult in his previous life, and he wanted it. In fact, what moved Uchiha Xingliu was what Uzumaki Mito just said to him, which was actually telling him one thing: she trusted Uchiha Xingliu. And even if he decided to become a Hokage in the future, Uzumaki Mito would still support him. This trust would not be affected by his being an Uchiha. Uchiha Xingliu really didn't expect that Uzumaki Mito would be able to do this, because no matter what, Senju Hashirama died early under the influence of Uchiha Madara. Uzumaki Mito on the side looked at Uchiha Xingliu with a smile and said nothing more, feeling a little uncomfortable under such a loving gaze. Uchiha Xingliu thought of his confident look just now, and suddenly he couldn't hold it back. Although his body is still small now, he was an adult in his previous life. He was very embarrassed by the words he said in excitement. It was as if he was back in the second year of junior high school, the second year of middle school. Whenever he thought of the things he did and said during that period, he wanted to dig out a living room and 3 rooms with his toes and live in it. However, after a while of embarrassment, he calmed down. Mito sister, don't you really want to know what happened just now? Uzumaki Mito nodded and said, I still want to know, but I want Xiao Xingliu to tell me. In fact, whether he was attacked or what happened to the Hokage, it was no longer a secret, so when he heard what Uzumaki Mito wanted to hear, Uchiha Xingliu told him the whole story, but he was forced to stop before he could say much, because when he heard that Uchiha Xingliu was attacked, Uzumaki Mito looked him up and down without waiting for him to continue. He was not relieved to see that he was safe and sound, so he continued to ask. You were attacked. You are not injured, right? Although he was interrupted, a warm current still passed through Uchiha Xingliu's heart. People's subconscious reactions are very real, and Uzumaki Mito's performance undoubtedly proves that she is not lying. I'm fine. Although the attack came a little suddenly, you can't underestimate me, an Uchiha. As he spoke, Uchiha Tsuryu opened his Sharingan, then pointed at his eyes and continued. These eyes let me see the trajectory of the attack, and the fire escape I used collided with the ninjutsu of the 2 attackers. After that, they probably left because they were afraid that someone would come. The 2 attackers are now nothing, and Uchiha Tsuryu can say whatever he wants. Attacker, if you say that you open the Mangekyo, ghosts will attack you. I have become a ghost. Then it's okay. Uzumaki Mito knew that Uchiha Tsuryu had a 3 Magatama Sharingan at the Hokage building, but he was still a little surprised to hear that he could use fire escape to repel the attacker. After all, judging from the strength that Uchiha Tsuryu has shown now, ignoring the fact that he has no combat experience, he is no longer an ordinary jonin. This talent reminded Uzumaki Mito of a person, Uchiha Madara, but then he thought that Uchiha Tsuryu was an orphan, and he felt sorry. For a while, she had heard that after Uchiha Izuna died at the hands of the 2nd generation, the pair of Mangekyo was given to Uchiha Madara, and the changes in Uchiha Madara's eyes naturally could not escape Senju Tobirama's observation. Senju Tobirama speculated about this change in special scroll for Uchiha. There must be a stronger eye above the Mangekyo, and this eye needs to be replaced by his brother's eye. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain why Uchiha Madara, who was about to go blind, suddenly regained his vision and greatly increased his strength. However, this point was quickly forgotten by Uzumaki Mito. She did not want Uchiha Tsuryu to become a person who pursued power and hurt his relatives. Now that there is no brother, there is naturally no such temptation. Xiao Xingliu is really amazing. At your age, I think even Uchiha Madara is not as good as you. After hearing this, Uchiha Xingliu scratched the back of his head a little embarrassedly and said modestly. Uchiha Madara is considered late in opening his eyes in our family book. He is the type of late bloomer. I can't compare with him. Uzumaki Mito certainly knows this. Uchiha Madara opened his eyes in his teens, and then he made rapid progress and became a strong man comparable to Senju Hashirama. However, it is still necessary to praise him. The repressive education is obviously not suitable for this humble child in front of him. Xiao Xingliu is indeed very talented. You are the most talented person I have ever seen. In the future, my Tsunade will be in your hands. You have to teach her more. Uzumaki Mito's words reminded Uchiha Xingliu of the fear of being dominated in the past, other people's children. Uchiha Xingliu made a grand debut, so he said quickly. No, I will definitely take Tsunade to practice together in the future. After saying that, without waiting for Uzumaki Mito to say anything, he took her hand and started to move forward. Uchiha Seiu's action made Uzumaki Mito laugh, but she still obeyed him. She took a few quick steps and took Uchiha Seiu's hand in turn. Xiao Xingliu, don't be so anxious. You don't even know where I live. Let me lead the way. Not long after that, they stopped in front of a beautiful courtyard. Chapter 24. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The courtyard in front of us is not big, and the overall style is Japanese. In this courtyard, there is a clean pool, the water is green and clear, like a mirror. The snow moss and lotus flowers beside the pool present a picture of tranquility and harmony. The breeze blows through the bamboo forest in the courtyard, and the rustling sound seems to have entered a world far away from the hustle and bustle. Of course, although this courtyard is not luxurious, it is much better than the one Uchiha Xingliu lived in before. Before they walked in, Tsunade pushed open the door and ran to them, and Chinatsu followed in a maid-style dress. Tsunade looked at Uchiha Xingliu strangely, wondering why he came here today. Just when she wanted to ask, Uzumaki Mito had already spoken first. Xiao Gang, did you master the sealing technique I taught yesterday today? Hearing this, Tsunade shrank her neck unconsciously and shuddered. Sealing techniques are not easy to learn, and since there was less than a day, Tsunade naturally didn't learn it. She was just curious about what the Umbu had just told her grandmother, so she ran out to ask, but she didn't expect to fall into a trap. Seeing Uzumaki Mito's increasingly strange eyes, she couldn't help but scream and ran back to her room. Uzumaki Mito thought very simply. Today she saw such a genius Uchiha Seiyu. Although Tsunade's talent is not bad, it is far inferior to Uchiha Seiyu. It's okay if you are not as talented as others, but if you don't work hard, that's your problem. Thinking of Tsunade's usual lazy style, and even learning to like gambling from Hashirama, Uzumaki Mito became more and more angry. The look of wanting to kill someone can't be hidden, and Uchiha Seiyu on the side is a little gloating, at this moment. Chinatsu stepped forward to interrupt Uzumaki Mito's idea of going berserk, temporarily saving Tsunade's little butt. Mito-sama, is this the young master you are going to adopt? Although still a little angry after being interrupted by Chiharu, Uzumaki Mito still answered Chiharu's question. Yes, this is Uchiha Tsurаю, the child I want to adopt. Something has happened. I have completed the adoption procedures and he will move in today. Thank you, Chiharu. Please tidy up the room today. Chiharu seemed to have expected this change and reminded Uzumaki Mito instead. Master Tsurayu's room was tidied yesterday and can be moved in at any time. Mito-sama, this is not a place to talk. Let's go in and talk. Uzumaki Mito also reacted. After nodding to Chiharu to express his gratitude, he said to Uchiha Tsurayu. Let's go in. This will be your home from now on. Home. It's really a bit far away for me. Uchiha Tsurayu said silently in his heart. In his previous life, he was also an orphan. Although the dean treated him like his own child, scattered love is destined to be incomplete. Thinking of this, Uchiha Xingliu looked at Uzumaki Mito and said. So, Sister Mito is my family from now on. Uzumaki Mito was stunned by his sudden question, but then said with certainty. What are you thinking about, little Xingliu? The moment I adopted you, you are my family. Yes, Grandma Mito. Uchiha Xingliu was full of emotions. The family affection that he had never had in his previous life until his death was obtained so easily in this life. This word grandma made Uzumaki Mito a little out of control, but looking at Uchiha Xingliu's slightly red eyes, he just said. Remember to call me sister in the future. He walked into the courtyard with Uchiha Xingliu, and Chinatsu did not continue to follow them. My family was saved by Lord Mito. Lord Mito is really a kind person. Standing still, watching the two people entering the room, Chishia was filled with emotion. As soon as Uchiha Surayu entered the room, he saw Tsunade holding a scroll and studying hard, and Uzumaki Mito nodded with satisfaction after seeing it. Whether it was really hard work or a show, Tsunade finally escaped at this moment. Sure enough, after Uzumaki Mito showed a satisfied look, Uchiha Surayu saw Tsunade and breathed a sigh of relief. Xiao Tsunade, don't study for the time being. Xiaoxing will move in today. You can take him around. I have something else to do. Forget about lunch today. I'll take you out to eat in the evening. After hearing this, Tsunade put down the scroll in her hand, ran to Uchiha Surayu and pulled him out. I know, Grandma, I'll take him there now. Uchiha Surayu was almost dragged down by her, thinking to himself why Tsunade was so reckless when she was a child, and she was so careless. Then he saw Uzumaki Mito. Okay, the case is solved. Knowing that Uzumaki Mito still had something to do, Uchiha Xingliu followed Tsunade to visit the house. After a while, they walked through the entire courtyard, and Uchiha Xingliu also understood the general layout. There would be no need to go to the toilet and find the place you need, after visiting the courtyard. Tsunade took Uchiha Xingliu and continued to walk and talk. Sister Chiharu cleaned up your room last night. It's next to mine. I'll take you there now. Uchiha Xingliu followed Tsunade all the way, and soon they came to two almost identical rooms, but one of them was very messy, with snacks, books and various sundries filled every corner of the room. Tsunade blushed when she saw it, and hurried forward to close the door of this room. Then he whispered to Uchiha Xingliu. This is your room next to it. I have to clean up the house and won't accompany you. After that, Tsunade pulled the door and ran in quickly, then slammed the door shut. Uchiha Xingliu looked at Tsunade's performance and smiled without caring. He was not much better when he was a child. Then he walked into the room assigned to him, and was relieved when he saw that everything he should have was there. After all, Uchiha Xingliu's original place had been almost destroyed, and the ninjutsu released by the two attackers was blocked by him with Susanoo, but the house was so lucky. The house collapsed, and the things inside were naturally damaged. He really didn't expect that he would be so unlucky that he was caught by a spy even though he lived in such a remote place. As for why Uchiha Xingliu was so sure that he was a spy, he actually thought about this question. Before today, he was just a nobody, an orphan whose parents had died. No matter how much the village leaders disliked Uchiha, they would not cause trouble for him. Now is the time when the ninja world war is about to end, and the espionage activities of various ninja villages can be said to have reached their peak. Combined with these, Uchiha Xingliu can be sure that the one who attacked him was a spy and not someone else. Chapter 25. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But it's useless to say anything now that the incident has happened. Uchiha Surayu took advantage of the situation and let Uzumaki Mito adopt him in advance, and also alienated the relationship between Uzumaki Mito, Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Shimura Danzo. Although this incident exposed part of his talent, it was not necessarily a bad thing. Since the low-key route was broken, he would go high-profile. Admiring the strong is also a common trait of people. The fact that he was 6 years old and had 3 Magatama and fought off spies would definitely arouse some people's vigilance, but the civilians must think differently from them. The civilians think about whether there can be another Uchiha Madara-like figure to keep peace. As long as he continues to show genius in the future, this idea will deepen, and finally win a huge reputation for himself. With the support of many civilians, Uchiha has long been regarded as his own property in the ninja clan. Senju has the support of Uzumaki Mito, so he will definitely stand on his side. The Hyuga clan doesn't need to worry about it. A clan that has been stubborn for thousands of years can only stop at the level of Kage even if a genius appears. There is no need to worry at all. As for other small and medium-sized ninja clans, under the joint efforts of Uchiha, Senju and civilians, they will not raise any opposition. It can be said that with the current situation, as long as Uchiha Xingliu follows the plan, the Hokage is basically in his pocket. But as I said, he doesn't want to live a life of 996, so the plan must go on. The current plan is actually very smooth. Although it is due to luck, luck is also a kind of strength. Wait until the ninja school starts, and then influence the few people you like, and you can be at ease as a hands-off shopkeeper or a fun person in the future. Thinking of this, Uchiha Xingliu thought of being suddenly attacked after he opened the Mangekyo. He didn't know whether the system had changed, so he silently recited in his heart and opened the system panel. Host, Uchiha Xingliu, Skills, Mangekyo Sharingan, Blue, LV1, Indra Bloodline, Remnant of Blue, LV2, Fire Style. Great Fireball Technique, Green, LV5, Fire Style. Imparata Technique, Green, LV2, Fire Style. Great Dragon Fire Technique, Green, LV1, Cooking, White, Hang Up Bar, Fire Style. Great Fireball Technique, Green, Indra Bloodline, Remnant of Blue, LV2, Mangekyo Sharingan, Blue, LV1. Combat Power, 1288, turn it off, it's really boring. Tip 1. The host's Mangekyo abilities are integrated into the Mangekyo Sharingan, and are not listed separately. Tip 2. The upgrade of the host's Mangekyo abilities will affect the power and consumption of the pupil technique. Tip 3. When the host's combat power exceeds 1000, the hang-up system hang-up speed will increase. Looking at the 3 prompts in the system, Uchiha Xingliu had some enlightenment in his heart. First of all, the ability of Mangekyo can no longer be automatically upgraded after the bloodline is upgraded as before, because Mangekyo contains 2 pupil techniques. Occupying 1 idle bar is equivalent to hanging 3 abilities. Isn't this a system loophole? Tip 2 also verifies this point. It must be a reminder given by the system to let him not put Mangekyo down on the idle bar. Moreover, bloodline abilities can indeed affect the promotion of Sharingan, but conversely, the promotion of Sharingan can also affect bloodline. These two are actually complementary, and hanging these 2 abilities is the most cost-effective. Tip 3 is very simple. The speed of hanging is upgraded, and green and lower skills will surely be promoted faster in the future. Great Fireball proves this point. It was upgraded to level 5 in less than a day. Uchiha Xingliu thought about it carefully, and there were indeed a lot of experience in using the Great Fireball technique in his mind. The body also has a feeling that it can now use the Great Fireball very skillfully. This way of transmitting knowledge to the mind silently makes Uchiha Xingliu very satisfied. Otherwise, if he suddenly has a severe headache during a battle, how unjust his death would be. As for why the promotion of Indra's bloodline ability caused such a big fuss, it was because the sudden surge of chakra affected him, not the bloodline ability. Other abilities that did not hang up also upgraded by 1 or 2 levels. This is because the Great Fireball is related to these ninjutsu, so it led to the upgrade of these abilities. But the most important thing is that the system's functions are becoming more and more complete, and even the prompts have become more. Uchiha Xingliu had guessed it long ago, and the changes in the system this time have almost verified this guess. This system is not yet perfect, and it will be improved along with the improvement of Uchiha Xingliu's ability. The system had the prompt function last time, and this time it made this function more useful and complete. In the future, as Uchiha Xingliu becomes stronger, the system's functions will be improved. There will be more and more abilities. Will there be a portal that will allow me to travel to another world in the future? Thinking about the changes in the system, Uchiha Xingliu complained silently in his heart. Just as he was complaining, the door was suddenly opened by Tsunade. She rushed to Uchiha Xingliu with excitement and said, "I just checked, Grandma has gone out, let's play together for a while." Uchiha Xingliu was not interested in Tsunade's proposal and gave Tsunade a fatal blow. "Have you learned the sealing technique that Mito Grandma said? She will come back to take us to dinner in the evening, and she should check your progress." Tsunade was petrified when she heard this, and there was no reaction for a long time. Uchiha Xingliu ignored her and prepared to find something to eat. He hadn't eaten since morning until now. Although lunch was approaching, he still wanted to find something to eat. Children sometimes have some privileges. Just as he was about to bypass the petrified Tsunade, a hand grabbed him. "I don't care. You have to play with me." She took out a dice from somewhere and placed it in front of Uchiha Xingliu. Uchiha Xingliu didn't want to cheat her, but this was Tsunade when she was a child. Wouldn't it be a pity not to dig a hole for her? Tsunade was punished for not completing the practice of sealing techniques. What does it have to do with me, Uchiha Xingliu? And although Uchiha Xingliu knew the general situation in the courtyard, didn't the person in front of him have snacks? What's more, she took out the dice. What else could it be but a gift? What's the level of Tsunade's gambling luck? Those who understand will understand, so Uchiha Sarayu no longer hesitated and said directly. Do you want me to play this dice with you? Tsunade nodded repeatedly after hearing this, and Uchiha Sarayu saw that Tsunade had taken the bait, so he continued. It's a bit boring to bet on nothing, but we are children. He pretended to think, and then his eyes lit up. Chapter 26. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's put it this way. If I lose, I will cover for you so that Grandma Mito won't punish you. Hearing this, Tsunade nodded her head even faster. But if you lose, you have to give me your snacks. How about that, do you agree? Tsunade's mind was full of Uchiha Sarayu's words that he would cover for her, so she didn't pay attention to the following words. She quickly picked up the dice and said with a high-spirited face. No problem, let's get started. It was lunchtime soon. Chisha looked for the two children in the courtyard for a while and didn't see them, so she came to their room. When she got here, Tsunade was already lying on the ground with a gloomy face. This surprised Chisha, and she quickly stepped forward to help Tsunade up and wanted to ask her what happened, but no matter how Chisha asked, Tsunade didn't speak. Uchiha Sarayu knew that Chiharu was looking for them to have lunch, and didn't want to waste time here, so he directly attacked Tsunade next to him. It's nothing, I just lost all the snacks this month. Tsunade felt even more hopeless when she heard this, while Chiharu was laughing and crying on the side. It's okay, Tsunade-sama, you can tell me if you want to eat, I will make it for you. Tsunade was very moved, walked up and hugged Chiharu, and made faces at Uchiha Sarayu. Uchiha Sarayu watched this scene from the side, and couldn't help coughing twice, reminding them that it was time to eat. After receiving the reminder, Chiharu let go of Tsunade, took the two people to the restaurant and left. At this time, there were two adults, a man and a woman, sitting in the restaurant waiting for them. Tsunade ran over excitedly after seeing the two people, and jumped into the man's arms at once. Dad, why are you back? Didn't you say you were going to the front to fight? Senju Yosuke hugged Tsunade and replied with a smile. Then you have to thank Xingliu, because I came back because of him. And Senju Qingxue on the side also echoed. Yes, we were all ready to leave, but Mom suddenly asked us not to leave yet. Later I found out that she wanted to adopt a child and needed our family to be present as witnesses. Thanks to him, we don't have to go back to the war. Uchiha Xingliu guessed when he saw Tsunade's performance that these two people should be her parents, and their subsequent words also showed that Uchiha Xingliu was right. The meaning of their words also made Uchiha Xingliu think about her parents who seemed to have never been mentioned in the plot. If he guessed correctly, if it weren't for him, this battle would probably cause Tsunade's parents to be seriously injured and pass away early. It seems that I have begun to flap my wings and changed many things. Thinking of this, Uchiha Siyu suddenly felt that he had lost out. If he had known earlier, he would not have been soft-hearted and agreed to waive the snacks for a few months. After hearing her parents' explanation, Tsunade broke free from Senju Yosuke's arms and came to Uchiha Siyu. Perhaps in front of so many people, Tsunade was inevitably a little shy, blushing and whispering. Thank you. After hearing this, Uchiha Siyu immediately said. If you want to thank me, why don't you waive the snacks just now? Tsunade was so embarrassed that she threw a weak fist at Uchiha Siyu. No, you can't count what you promised me. The two people on the side watched the fight between the two with a smile, and reminded them to eat after a while. After dinner, the two stopped Uchiha Siyu who wanted to leave. Tsunade returned to her room after seeing that there was nothing for her to do, ready to make up for the wasted time in the afternoon. Otherwise, Uzumaki Mito might hang her up to watch the ceiling technique, and let her down when she finished watching. Thinking of this scene, Tsunade walked faster. Senju Yosuke looked at Tsunade who was running away and didn't care. He took out a scroll from behind and handed it to Uchiha Sarayu. Sarayu-kun, Mito-sama asked me to give this thing to you. Please accept it. Uchiha Sarayu knew this kind of scroll. It was used to seal items. He had one. After taking the scroll, he asked. What is sealed in it? The Senju family's ninjutsu collection, all of them. Uchiha Sarayu's pupils shrank. He didn't expect it to be such a thing, although he was sure that he would not lack ninjutsu after being adopted. He really didn't expect Uzumaki Mito to dare to give him all his collections, but when I think of the conversation between the two this morning, it's not surprising, but it's still very strange. Uchiha Xingliu didn't ask Uzumaki Mito for ninjutsu, so why did he suddenly give it to him? With this thought, Uchiha Xingliu asked. Can I ask why you gave it to me? Senju Yosuke looked at him and said with emotion. Mito said you are a rare genius in 1,000 years, and she doesn't know how to teach you. So let me give you all the ninjutsu, and you will decide your own future path. Of course, if you don't understand something, you can ask us. After knowing the strength that Uchiha Xingliu has now, Uzumaki Mito knew that he was not qualified to train him. Now is not the Warring States period, and at that time, if you want to survive, you have to fight constantly. The pressure of survival will teach Uchiha Xingliu everything he needs. After thinking about it, Uzumaki Mito decided to leave this choice to Uchiha Xingliu himself, so this scroll came into his hands. Uchiha Xingliu took this thing and realized that Uzumaki Mito really didn't just talk, and even gave him his family fortune. Seeing that he was a little touched, Senju Yosuke patted his shoulder and said. Don't mind it, each of us has seen this scroll, but whether you can learn it or not is up to you. Having said that, Uchiha Xingliu was really moved. If a person treats you wholeheartedly, if you don't feel anything at all, isn't it the same as a stone? Uzumaki Mito doesn't need anything at this stage, he just wants to see the village grow steadily, or his relatives won't get into trouble. No desire means no demand, and Uzumaki Mito in this state made Uchiha Xingliu unable to think of any way to repay for a while, but then he thought of Tsunade, and thought of the headache that Uzumaki Mito had for Tsunade today. It goes without saying who Tsunade's personality resembles, but Tsunade now does behave like a naughty child. As a descendant of Uzumaki Mito, there is no reason why she cannot learn the diamond seal. Although this ninjutsu can only be used by members of the Uzumaki clan, it is a sealing technique that can be learned. Tsunade has the prerequisite to learn this ninjutsu, as a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. Chapter 27. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ninjutsu of the diamond seal has a strong sealing effect. Once a general ninja is entangled, it is impossible to break it. Moreover, for the nuclear weapons of the tailed beasts, the diamond seal also has a special attack skill, so this ninjutsu can make up for Tsunade's future shortcomings. In fact, Tsunade's talent is the strongest among the three ninjas, and even Orochimaru can't compare. Tsunade has been abandoned for so many years due to hemophobia, and her strength can still be maintained at the level of Kage, and from the 4 regulations she proposed about medical ninjas, it is likely that the creative regeneration and the 100 healings technique were invented and mastered by her during the Third World War. Not only that, Tsunade also systematically sorted out the development of medical ninjas, which caused Konoha to reform this point. From all these, it can be seen that even if Tsunade's talent is not as good as that of Tobirama Senju, it is not far behind. The collection of ninjutsu of the Senju clan will not leave Tsunade without learning materials, so what she lacks is not resources and talent, but a reason that allows her to settle down and study. Uchiha Xingliu has thought about this. No matter how talented Tsunade is, she can't be as fast as him. As long as he is there, there will be a silver carp effect. Even if Tsunade wants to be lazy, Uzumaki Mito has an example to refer to. Suffer now, and it will be fine when you grow up. Thinking of this seemingly true and false words, Uchiha Xingliu almost laughed out loud. This sentence reminded him of what his high school teacher said in his previous life. Uchiha Xingliu believed it at the beginning, but when he went to college, he knew it was not the case at all. Uncle Yosuke, although I have nothing to give back to you now, I can still urge Tsunade to study. As a person who has been on the battlefield, Senju Yosuke naturally knows that the more strength, the more chance of survival. So he couldn't object to Uchiha Sarayu's words, but said happily. Then I'll trouble you. Tsunade is lazy whenever she has time, which has always been a headache for us. Uchiha Sarayu nodded, picked up the scroll in his hand and said. Leave it to me with confidence, I will learn this scroll with Tsunade. Senju Yosuke patted Uchiha Tsurayu's shoulder and laughed. Uchiha Tsurayu's act of repaying kindness made him very satisfied. After all, no one wants to raise an ungrateful person, but he thought too much. Uzumaki Mito's vision of looking at people is much higher than his. When they were in the barbecue restaurant, Uzumaki Mito knew that Uchiha Tsuraayu had a performance component. But his clear eyes were the real reason that moved Uzumaki Mito, living in a peaceful world in his previous life. Uchiha Tsuraayu did not have the anxiety and tyranny in the hearts of the people in the ninja world. When proposing to donate to the orphanage, Uchiha Xingliu subconsciously showed an attitude that it should be so. It seemed that for him, doing good deeds was a matter of course. This kindness cannot be performed. After handing the scroll to Uchiha Xingliu, Senju Yosuke simply chatted with Uchiha Xingliu for a few words and left. Although he did not have to go to the battlefield, there were still many things that needed him to be busy. Uchiha Xingliu brought the scroll to Tsunade's room and told her about studying the scroll together in the future. When she heard the news, Tsunade was confused and did not understand how this matter happened to her. She had naturally seen this scroll, and she was rejected by her at that time, but she was finally fooled. Even Uzumaki Mito had no choice but to promise to wait until she was older before starting to study the contents of this scroll, so Tsunade was naturally unwilling to study obediently, and she saw her eyes turn and thought of an idea. "Hey, how about we make a bet? I'll agree to it if you win." Uchiha Xingliu heard this and knew that Tsunade was going to give away money again, so he naturally wouldn't let it go. Uchiha Xingliu knew Tsunade's character, and being tough would lead to no results. Now that he heard what Tsunade said, he knew that she was going to give away money again, so he naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. "No problem, my bet is your snacks for a month, and I'll give them back if you win once. But if you lose once, you have to study hard for 3 days, how about that?" Tsunade was naturally full of confidence that she could get back all the snacks if she won once, and she didn't have any previous lessons at all. She had no idea about her gambling luck, and the worse she was, the more she liked to play. "Then let's get started, this time we'll compare the size." Tsunade picked up the dice and shook them, then suddenly covered them on the ground. "I guess big," Tsunade said excitedly, and Uchiha Xingliu smiled and said, "Since you guessed too high, so I'll guess too low." Uchiha Xingliu didn't know how to lose when betting with Tsunade. The result was as he expected, too, a low one. Tsunade was a little unwilling, and pestered Uchiha Xingliu to continue playing with her. Uchiha Xingliu naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity, and the two of them hit it off and played until dark in the evening. The whole afternoon passed like this. Uzumaki Mito also came back, and she walked to Tsunade's room and saw them playing dice. "Originally, I thought it was Tsunade who led Uchiha Xingliu astray, but then I was a little surprised by Tsunade's expression." Tsunade was extremely excited when playing these things before, but why did she look like she was about to cry this time? After seeing Uzumaki Mito, Uchiha Xingliu planned to take the initiative to prevent Tsunade from defaulting. "Grandma Mito, I've agreed with Tsunade that she will study hard for 3 days if she loses once. She has lost more than 100 times, so I'll just count it as 100 times. Can I transfer this account to Mito-san? If Tsunade doesn't acknowledge it, can Mito-san take it?" Hearing this, Uzumaki Mito suddenly realized. She said, "Tsunade likes gambling so much, why would she have such an expression?" It turned out that she lost too much, and what she lost was not money, but time to study hard. Tsunade burst into tears when she heard this. She was really going to default on the debt. Anyway, only the two of them knew the bet, but now it was impossible. Uchiha Tsuraayu gave the bill to Uzumaki Mito. She dared to blame Uchiha Tsuraayu, but she didn't dare to blame Uzumaki Mito. Thinking that she would have 300 days of darkness, Tsunade was overwhelmed with grief and couldn't help crying. Although Tsunade cried very sadly, Uzumaki Mito didn't spoil Tsunade. She didn't like Tsunade gambling in the first place, and letting her lose a big loss once. Maybe she could correct her hobby in the future, and the bet was not money, but something good for Tsunade. So Uzumaki Mito would not sympathize with Tsunade, but would make Tsunade fulfill the bet seriously. Chapter 28. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Don't worry, Xiaoxing, I will supervise her well. Ignoring Tsunade's crying, Uzumaki Mito smiled and admitted the bet. although Tsunade knew that she couldn't get away with it this time, she felt even more uncomfortable when she heard that Uzumaki Mito really wanted to fulfill the bet seriously. This discomfort made her cry even louder. Tsunade hoped to awaken Uzumaki Mito's kindness in this way. Unfortunately, Uzumaki Mito didn't even look at her, but just nodded to Uchiha Xingliu in appreciation, and Uchiha Xingliu also responded to her with a smile, and for a while, the whole room was filled with a happy atmosphere. A world where only Tsunade was injured was born. Tsunade made a fuss for a while, but when she saw that it didn't work, she completely gave up. She just looked at Uchiha Xingliu with resentment all the way, as if she wanted to use this method to arouse his guilt. Unfortunately, until they started to have dinner together, Uchiha Xingliu didn't show any embarrassment. Tsunade was so angry that she could only compete with him in eating capacity at the table again. The silent confrontation between the two children also made this dinner full of laughter. Of course, in the end, Tsunade was defeated again. During the meal, Uzumaki Mito also told Uchiha Xingliu and Tsunade that the ninja school would start classes in 3 days. Let them prepare early and don't forget the time to go to school. When Uchiha Xingliu heard the news that the ninja school was about to start classes, a trace of expectation flashed in his eyes. After school starts, his plan will officially begin. Now among the 3 ninjas, Tsunade has been firmly controlled by him, and only Orochimaru and Jiraiya are left, and he can't just look at these 3 people. Other talented people also need his attention. As long as these saplings are straightened, he can be an idol boss in the future. However, there is a sapling in front of him that needs to be corrected. Uchiha Tsuryu looked at Tsunade with a playful look. Tsunade was thinking about how to play tomorrow, and when he looked at her like that, she felt like she was being stared at by something. She looked back in confusion, and saw Uchiha Tsuryu and others discussing other things. She didn't think about it anymore, just thinking it was her illusion. Little did she know that what was waiting for her was the hell of studying. 3 years of simulating the college entrance examination for 5 years, let Tsunade feel the horror of tutoring. 3 days passed in a flash, and Tsunade was gritting her teeth and looking at Uchiha Tsuryu, who was leading the way in front with red eyes. Just as Uchiha Tsuryu expected, Tsunade wanted to have fun the day after the dinner. As a result, she was caught by Uzumaki Mito and brought back to fulfill the bet. During these 3 days, Tsunade never regretted why she had made such a bet with Uchiha Tsuryu. Of course, Uzumaki Mito was not so heartless as to let Tsunade study for 12 hours, it's just 5 or 6 hours a day, but for Tsunade, who has not experienced a big setback, this is also a big test. Uchiha Xingliu has not been idle for the past 3 days. He first got familiar with his Mangekyo ability, and then practiced climbing trees and treading water. The growing chakra forced him to practice this aspect. Fortunately, I don't know if it's because of Indra's bloodline or he is a genius. In 3 days, Uchiha Xingliu completed the training of climbing trees and treading water, and was able to control chakra skillfully. The new AFK speed of the AFK system also gave him a surprise. In just 3 days, the fire style Great Fireball technique has reached level 10. As long as it is upgraded by 1 level, this ability can be promoted to blue. The Great Fireball he spewed has also turned white, and the temperature has risen sharply. This also makes him look forward to what this ability will become after the upgrade. At this moment, they are on the way to the ninja school. Originally, Uchiha Xingliu wanted to walk with Tsunade, but she was already in this state as soon as she went out. Uchiha Xingliu didn't care about Tsunade's anger. This was just a child's quarrel. In fact, they got along quite well in the past 3 days. Tsunade was not really ungrateful. She was just a little lazy, not stupid. She knew that Uchiha Xingliu was using this method to help her improve her habits, and Uchiha Xingliu also practiced hard, which she saw, but knowing is knowing, and being unhappy is really unhappy, so Tsunade vented her dissatisfaction in this way, hoping that Uchiha Xingliu would coax her. Unfortunately, Uchiha Xingliu was a straight man in his previous life. How could he understand the mind of a little girl? He heard the sound of Tsunade gritting her teeth, and thought she was going to bite himself, so not only did he not stop to coax Tsunade, but he sped up and left. Let's go, or it will hurt if you get bit. Looking at Uchiha Xingliu, who was about to run away in the blink of an eye, Tsunade was completely dumbfounded. In fact, today Senju Yosuke wanted to send the 2 of them to the ninja school, but they all refused. At this point, the 2 of them even had the same reason for their refusal. We have grown up and can go to school by ourselves. So now that Uchiha Xingliu ran away, Tsunade didn't care about being angry, and she also quickened her pace to catch up. Uchiha Xingliu saw Tsunade catching up and thought she was really going to bite him. Without waiting for Tsunade to get close, he silently quickened his pace. Tsunade looked at Uchiha Xingliu, who was getting faster and faster from behind, and her heart had already begun to roar, but in this situation, she had no choice but to quicken her pace. In this way, the two of them ran faster and faster. They ran a distance that was supposed to take more than 10 minutes in just a few minutes. Uchiha Xingliu looked at Tsunade, who was panting and speechless behind him, and handed her a bottle of water. Tsunade rolled her eyes at him, picked up the water and drank it. It seems that Tsunade is really angry, otherwise, let her bite it. Just as he was hesitating to extend that hand for Tsunade to bite, Tsunade lightly punched him on the shoulder. I'm so tired, it's still early, why are you running? Uchiha Xingliu knew he was wrong when he heard this, but at this time, even he, a straight man, knew that he couldn't tell the truth, so he thought about it and thought of a bad reason. Running is good for health, I'm exercising. This sounded like a lie, but Tsunade could guess the real reason even if Uchiha Xingliu didn't say it, so even though Xingliu explained it, it didn't prevent Tsunade from blackmailing him. After all, his answer was obviously a bit guilty. I don't believe it. Grandma asked you to bring me to school, but you almost left me behind. If you're not afraid that I'll tell Grandma, how about reducing the 99 bets by half? Chapter 29. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Xingliu glanced at Tsunade with disdain and said to her, this matter is not a big deal. It is impossible to break the contract. Tsunade was still trying to bargain, but before she could say anything, Uchiha Xingliu walked into the ninja school without looking back. Seeing Uchiha Xingliu's performance, Tsunade knew that her idea was hopeless. Tsunade sighed, extinguished her little thoughts, walked quickly to his side, and entered the school together. The two walked into the school and found that the teacher was organizing the freshmen to line up and stand on the playground, as if there was some activity. Before they asked, the teacher told them. It turned out that today was the freshmen's entrance ceremony, and the third generation of Hokage would come to watch the ceremony and give a speech. Good guy, in which world do leaders like to give speeches? Complaining about the third generation of Hokage in his heart, Uchiha Xingliu pulled Tsunade to the position of the elite class and stood still. Fortunately, the ninjas were still able to move. After the students stood in place, the third Hokage announced the start of the ceremony. Sarutobi Hiruzen walked to the front of the stage and began his will of fire. Uchiha Xingliu looked around. In his class, there was another Uchiha besides himself. What surprised him was that there was also one in Hyuga. It should be from the branch family. Is he the abandoned one like me? A bird in a cage, this thing really hurts people. But Uchiha Xingliu didn't know that while he was observing others, Sarutobi Hiruzen was also paying attention to him. After all, Uchiha, who opened the 3 Magatama at the age of 6, could control the existence of Danzo with just one look. Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help but pay attention to this kind of person. What's more, Uchiha Xingliu was adopted by Mtlnovel. Since he couldn't get rid of him in advance, he would find a way to make friends with him. The sacrifices in the First World War are not without value, they are all heroes. Where the leaves flutter, the fire will also continue. The flames will continue to illuminate the village and let new leaves sprout. This is the will of fire. Sarutobi Hiruzen's speech said a lot, but it ended with this brainwashing quote. There is nothing wrong with this sentence itself. Sacrificing oneself to illuminate future generations is indeed a great spirit, but this sentence was said by Sarutobi Hiruzen, so there is a problem. Among Konoha F4, only Danzo went to the battlefield in the later wars. In this regard, it is no wonder that Danzo later looked down on Sarutobi Hiruzen and thought he was not as good as himself. The other 4 shadows all went into battle with their subordinates. They were all the third generation of Raikage and even died fighting for the future of the village. On the other hand, what did Sarutobi Hiruzen do? He said this but did not make any sacrifices. Even when the students of the ninja school went to the battlefield in the Third World War, he did not go to the battlefield. It is useless to say nice words, so in the end, Sarutobi Hiruzen was isolated and helpless when Orochimaru attacked, and no one came to save him. but this did not prevent this sentence from being very touching in this culturally barren ninja world. At the end of this sentence, all the children on the playground were so excited that they wanted to burn themselves. Immediately, even Tsunade clenched her hands excitedly, with an expression that she wanted to give her heart to Konoha. Uchiha Xingliu didn't feel anything, and even made a 99 gesture to Tsunade to calm her down immediately. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was standing on the stage, felt very satisfied when he saw this scene. Why does he come to give speeches every year? Is it because he has too much time? Of course, it is to plant seeds in the hearts of these children and make them lean towards him. The sentence that came up with a whim today had such an effect, which was really beyond his expectation, although Uchiha Xingliu, who was most concerned, did not show the expression he wanted, but overall, he was still very satisfied. The goal was achieved, and Sarutobi Hiruzen returned the microphone to the host teacher. After flattering Sarutobi Hiruzen a few times, the host teacher announced that the freshman entrance ceremony was officially over. Let them wait for their homeroom teacher, who would take them to their classes. In front of their class, a familiar figure came here. I believe you still remember me. It doesn't matter if you don't remember. I will introduce myself again. My name is Dokichi, and I will be your future homeroom teacher. Please give me your guidance. The teacher who recorded their physical test scores during the entrance examination has now become their homeroom teacher. Dokichi did not rush to take them to class. He waited until everyone on the playground had left before he spoke. Because we are the most elite class, I also checked the information, and you all have chakra. So the first lesson, go exercise for me, run around the playground 20 times, get up. That he changed his calm expression and roared directly. With the scar on his face, he frightened most of the people present. Why are you still standing there? Do you think it's too little? Then run 25 laps. Looking at the students standing there, Dokichi added 5 more laps for them. Now, all the students started to move. Dokichi also followed him and said as he ran. Chakra is a mixture of spiritual energy and physical energy. Spiritual energy varies from person to person, but a good body can improve your chakra. I don't care how other teachers teach, but from now on, as long as it's my class, you have to run 20 laps. Get it? As new students, they didn't even know each other's names, but they were asked to run laps by the teacher. Originally, they thought it was a show of strength from the teacher, just this time, but they didn't expect to have to run in the future. They paused and looked at Dokichi like a devil. Uchiha Xingliu didn't comment. 20 laps were just a warm-up exercise for him, and what Dokichi said was not wrong, but it was not suitable for geniuses. For example, Tsunade and him, they have strong bloodlines and unique talents. Then there are civilian geniuses like Jiraiya, who are born with huge chakra. Being able to have huge chakra, on the other hand, Jiraiya's physical and mental strength are very good, so this teacher's teaching is only suitable for ordinary people, which can't help them improve at all. The result of the matter was just as Uchiha Xingliu thought. After the running lap, although most people couldn't help but lie on the ground, but a few people were just slightly out of breath, showing their unique physical talents, Uchiha Xingliu looked at those people. Uchiha and Hinata were naturally needless to say. Jiraiya and Orochimaru were also among them, but what surprised him was that there was one more person, a girl with glasses and brown hair. While Uchiha Xingliu was looking around, others were also looking at him. If they were still a little out of breath after running, then Uchiha Xingliu didn't even have any abnormality. This strong physique made them feel inferior. Uchiha Ji looked at Uchiha Xingliu unwillingly, and a little bitterness rose in his heart. Chapter 30. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Jiro is the person who will develop Izanami and end the Uchiha civil strife in the future. He has already shown his outstanding talent. 3 days ago, the conversation between her father and grandfather made her very dissatisfied with Uchiha Xingliu. Today's physical test made her feel a little shaken, although a physical test cannot explain anything. Uchiha Xingliu's relaxed look makes people know at a glance that he has just warmed up. Uchiha Jiro himself is not only exhausted, but also sweating. The difference between the two is obvious. She also knows that Uchiha Xingliu has opened the 3 Magatama, which is also called the copy eye and the illusion eye, so in terms of ninjutsu and illusion, he is definitely not comparable. Ninjutsu, body and illusion are surpassed in all aspects. No matter how dissatisfied Uchiha Jiro is, the iron reality is in front of him. Now Uchiha Tsuryu is stronger. Uchiha Jiro's eyes dimmed for a moment, but then he cheered up. She believed that she would be able to surpass Uchiha Tsuryu one day. At this time, Dokichi came over. Look at you, only a few people are qualified, you are the worst class I have ever taught. Get up, I will take you to the classroom. After that, he left without caring whether the students could stand up or not. The students who were lying on the ground and didn't want to move could only wail and climb up when they saw Dokichi's unhesitating action. They climbed up with difficulty and followed him dejectedly. Dokichi looked at the students who had not fallen behind, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, but soon turned back to a serious expression. After a while, he led the students to a classroom. After telling the students to find a seat and sit down, he stood on the podium and stopped talking. The students were intimidated by the majesty of teacher Dokichi, and they all found a seat and sat down in a short while. On the left of Uchiha Tsuryu was Jiji, and on the right was Tsunade. He didn't know this Uchiha, and he didn't expect her to come here and sit down. Dokichi looked at all the students who had sat down and said, "Today is the first day of school. You don't know each other. This class will let you get to know each other. Teacher, I'll go first. My name is Dokichi, a Konoha Chunin. I like spicy food. My dream is to train you to become the pillars of Konoha. That's it. Take what I said as a template. Who will go first?" That the students looked around and didn't want to be the first to stand up and introduce themselves. Tsunade didn't have such a mind. When she heard what Dokichi said, she stood up immediately. "I'll go first. My name is Senju Tsunade. I like snacks. My dream is to become the first female Hokage of Konoha." Dokichi applauded after hearing this and also affirmed Tsunade's dream. At this time, Uchiha Ji also stood up. "My name is Uchiha Ji, I like ramen, and my current dream is to surpass someone." As she said this, she glanced at Uchiha Xingliu. When Uchiha Tsuryu heard her name, he was stunned. He didn't expect that the only woman who could open the Mangekyo in the anime was actually in the same class as him. Uchiha Jiji might be more talented than Itachi. You can say Itachi's strength may be stronger than Jiji, but in terms of talent, she is undoubtedly stronger because she invented Izanami to restrain Izanagi. Now this person is sitting next to him, as if he had come to his door. This made Uchiha Tsuryu unable to deal with it. Everything went too smoothly in the past few days, which made him feel a little uneasy. Uchiha Tsuryu planned to cultivate talented people, and then Tsunade and Uchiha Jiji came up by themselves. He planned to hide his strength and develop in a low-key manner, and Uzumaki Mito came to adopt him, so that he didn't have to worry too much about the accumulation in the early stage. All this was too smooth, and it was smoother than Uchiha Tsuryu expected. Is there really a problem? Uchiha Tsuryu muttered in his heart, and then he thought of the great toad sage. It seems that I need to find an opportunity to test it. Thinking of the six-path sage who has been watching the ninja world in the underworld, Uchiha Tsuryu decided to give it a try to see if the prediction of the great toad sage is omnipotent. In fact, this test is very simple. Now that he has this butterfly, the future of the ninja world will change. After Jiraiya became the spokesperson of Mayaboku Mountain, the great toad sage would give him a prediction. If this prophecy is still the same as before, it means that the great toad sage is just as so, and the six-path sage is not as outrageous as imagined. On the contrary, if the prophecy changes, or even if Uchiha Tsuryu is in the prophecy, it means that the six-path sage is the heavenly path of the ninja world. He can really observe the future timeline. At this point, Uchiha Tsuryu almost broke out in a cold sweat, but on second thought, the possibility of the second one is very small, because if the six-path sage is really that strong, he should have attacked him the moment he crossed over. Otherwise, the future will definitely not follow the six-path sage's script, and it is hard to say whether Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke will be born. However, the necessary tests cannot be missed. Uchiha Tsuryu decided to help Jiraiya summon to Mayaboku Mountain as soon as possible. As for whether Jiraiya will not be able to reach Mayaboku Mountain correctly, he is not worried about this. Rather than saying that Jiraiya is lucky to summon to Mayaboku Mountain, it is better to say that those toads summoned Jiraiya, just like the big toad sage Gamera chose the six-path sage. The spokesperson of this generation is Jiraiya. Only with this result, Jiraiya will be summoned to Mayaboku Mountain. Otherwise, how could this 1 in 10 million probability be realized so coincidentally? The so-called chance encounter was nothing more than a carefully designed coincidence. Just as he was thinking about how to fool Jiraiya, he suddenly felt his clothes being pulled. Uchiha Xingliu came back to his senses and looked around. Now the whole class was looking at him. Tsunade also rolled her eyes at him. She was the one who just reminded Uchiha Xingliu. It seems that the whole class has finished introducing themselves and is waiting for me. Thinking of this, Uchiha Xingliu stood up and smiled embarrassedly. Sorry, I was a little distracted just now. My name is Uchiha Xingliu, I like spicy food, and my dream is... He glanced at Tsunade and continued. My dream is to become a man who is a Hokage. That this pause is very subtle, but except for Doki Satoshi, everyone present is a child, so naturally no one can understand it, and the dream of becoming a Hokage is too common. Most of the dreams in this class are this, so no one cares about this pause. It was Dokichi who came back to his senses, and his serious expression almost broke. He coughed quickly, and then looked at Uchiha Tsuraya meaningfully. Okay, since the introductions are complete, this class ends here, and we'll take a 10-minute break.